Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson, and it's so good to be back in my studio. Still trying to get over this cough, but I am back with my producer, and I'm back with Kathy. I've got Kathy here as a guest. She's been here before. And Kathy, welcome. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Renee. And I'm so glad your voice is coming back. Good for you.
It's coming back. It's not quite there yet, but it is coming back. But thank you. And today we're going to dive into this topic of, so many people come into these marriages from a Christian perspective, a Christian background, believing in this commitment to, this covenant of marriage, commitment to God, commitment to your partner. And we're going to dive into that a little bit today. And I'm really excited about that. So Kathy, thank you for taking on this topic. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It is.
So I want to start by, Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And that is definitely not what happens when you're in a marriage with a covert narcissist. You try, you fight for that, and I fought for that. I was raised in a very Christian background, and I firmly believe in my covenant to God, and I was dedicated to this. And so I tried. I dug in. I'm okay. That's what I got to focus on. Always looking for the good. But that's hard to do when you're in a marriage where you're constantly being beat down.
Right. It is. And it gets so confusing. I know. A few years into our marriage, I was trying to focus on those good things, and I was confused, didn't know what they were because there were so many bad things.
Mm.
And so there were the bad things and there were the good things. And then I felt bad about thinking about the bad things. I knew that was wrong. No, I couldn't think about the bad things. So I made a list of all the good things so that I could just focus on those good things.
Wow.
A-
I,
And
I did something very similar too. Go ahead and keep going.
well, I was just going to say it was very helpful in being able to stay true to Philippians 4:8. Okay, then I could focus on those things and I could give praise and I would give positive affirmation, build him up. Yay, look how you're doing all these things good. In the meantime, there were all these other things that were gnawing at me that I couldn't explain. And it was very, very confusing.
It's very confusing, and you can't just ignore them. You can for a while, like I did for a long time. And I've said before in my podcast, if they were bad all the time, I think it would be, I don't want to say easier. There's nothing easy about any of this, but I think it would be easier to see the reality.
Definitely.
But they're not. There is a lot of good. Like, we had good times. We had times where, he showed up I remember one situation where our son had gotten in trouble, getting into some stuff on the computer that he shouldn't have been in. And we had to have a very difficult conversation with our, preteen son. But going into this conversation, I was a little dreadful thinking, oh, how's this going to go? But I'm going to tell you, that is one of those conversations I look back at and go, man, he handled that well. He handled it well. He had good analogies. It was the right length of time. He didn't drag it on and on. This was not hours long. He didn't come up with unreasonable punishments. He handled it in a way that I thought, wow, this is a good dude.
Yeah. And isn't that strange because it surprises you?
Yes, it did surprise me.
It does.
That is true, and that says a lot.
Exactly. I had those situations too where I would call my friend and I would say, "Wow, you wouldn't believe what just happened because it was so good and so positive." And I would even tell my friends, help me remember these good times when I start complaining about the bad times." So I can remember that it's not all bad, that there's really a lot of good in this person.
Wow. Wow, and what I found was Well, a couple different things. One is the things that surprise you about a person, you need to think about that. What are the things that make you go, wow, that's really a little surprising that this happened? If that's a bad thing, then okay, this is a good person that just has a momentary bad moment. But if it's a good thing that surprises you, that says a lot about this person.
And so because we're only thinking good things, then those when those bad things start stirring within us and we see things that make us angry or they make us afraid, like you with your son, you're afraid. I was afraid of what he would say to our kids in some of those conversations. What are you going to say? So but then we think but we can't judge. We can't judge him.
Right.
You know, was like and so that we think about that scripture then right on the heels of Philippians 4:8, we think, well, then there's Matthew 7 where Jesus says, "Well, don't judge.
Don't judge.
Don't judge, for you will be judged." And so we think we can't, so we have to only focus on the positive things. And we as self-reflecting, um, empathic, most of us, a lot of us codependent, we do deep self-reflection and we go, "Yes, we'll take that to heart and we'll examine." We don't wanna be looking at the trying to pick the speck out of his eye or her eye when we've got the plank in our own eye. And so, so we go, "Yes, yes, help me get that plank out of my eye." And,
Yes.
you know
Yes, we dig in and work on us. We do it on us. And I worked on me. I mean, how can I do better? How can I get better? How can I focus more? How can I and I could always come up with another thing I could do better, which is not bad. I like the self-improvement. I like the self-growth. I like the self-reflection. So these aren't bad things. But in fact, what my husband said to me at one point, he goes, I've never met anybody who works so hard on themselves.
Right.
Well, go figure. I'm living with a covert narcissist. Of course, I'm working hard on myself. Like, and I didn't put it together at the time, but I look back now and go, well, no wonder.
Uh-huh. Right. But the thing that came to me just the other day as I was pondering on this is we kind of have I don't know about you, Renee, but I kinda grew up with this formulaic understanding of that scripture that, well, then that means, yes, the problem is me if I'm judging. So there's
Right,
nothing wrong with the other person. But but that what Jesus was talking to the hypocrites
right,
in that passage. He wasn't talking to people who were passionately, diligently trying to do the right thing.
right,
And so I really believe that there are other people out there that do still have a plank in their eye. So yes, we might and we can do our work, we can do our inner work and our prayer and our self-reflection. And yes, we can remove that plank out of our own eye, but that doesn't mean that once the plank is gone, the other person only has a speck. We can look at them and they still have that plank.
right, right. It doesn't change the other person. It
Right.
changes my heart. It is up to me to not judge, to give grace, to focus on the positive, and that's good. All of that is good, and I support that, but it doesn't change it doesn't make my marriage magically better. It
Exactly.
doesn't fix it.
Right, because the plank is still there. The plank of covert narcissism is still there no matter what we do, it's there. And so there comes a point where we have to be willing to see the reality of our situation. And that was very, very difficult because it went against everything we were raised with to only focus on the positive.
This is very true, and when you look at the list, you said you made a list, and I did the same thing of the positives, the things I can focus on. As my marriage went, the deeper into my marriage that I went, the shorter that list got. I
Mm,
don't know about you, but it got shorter and shorter. See, when I got married, my father, being a preacher, he actually quoted, the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy. It's this list of the attributes of love. And he quoted it at our wedding. And at the time, I would have said this, my husband was all of these things,
mm,
and I know I read that chapter all of my life looking at what I was supposed to be. But I didn't think about the effect of, really looking at it. Was my husband patient? He wasn't. I knew he wasn't. Back when we were even dating, the patience wasn't there. Love is never rude. And I would watch some of his interactions and go, okay, he is rude. But I would think, well, at least he's not rude to me. He's not rude to me. But as soon as you think that about somebody, it's only a matter of time until it's focused on you. That is something I've really kind of thought through in life. But I look at it after I'd been in my marriage for a good 15 years, and I started looking at those traits and went, oh my gosh, they're not here. They're not present. He was keeping score. He was quick to be angry. He was, these things that I was so convinced were in my marriage, they weren't there.
Wow. That I know that that had to be so I enlightening in a bad way.
Yes, yes,
Eye-op
devastating.
eye-opening, yes, devastating. For me, Renee, my list didn't have any of those heart things. My list didn't even go close to, um, 1 Corinthians 13. My list was all things that he did. So
Okay.
he was really all these things he could do. So I didn't see the whole covert narcissist. It's like an underlayer. It's that underlayer, and you it's like you were more aware of that, and you would go, "Yeah, he does get angry," and I would see that, but I would brush it off because he was so good at earning money for the family. He was so good at planning the vacations. He was so good at taking care of the yard. He would helped me with laundry and did cooking, and I mean, all these really good things, but there was n that whole underlayer of the heart level was, like, just absent. It was like it was just
Yeah.
vacant.
Yeah.
So
I know what you're talking about, and I had that too. I think I convinced myself that the heart was there.
yes, we do that. Yes, I'm sure I did that too.
I think I did, because he would, planning vacation, you mentioned that. We would get together for, to head out on a trip, and he did all the work. He would load the car, he would do all the stuff, and I remember even thinking, "Wow, that's awesome. He's stepping up and taking care of all of this. Look at the way he takes care of me." And he clearly loves me. He clearly cares about me. He clearly is putting me, up on his, not a pedestal, but on a level of care. And that's what I took from it. Now, as we went into the marriage, of course, those things disappear. And now I'm the one doing all the work. I'm the one doing the yard work and all the laundry and all the, like, it just was a matter of time till that shifted for me.
You yeah, yeah, not for me. So but yeah, so that's good because then we can help, relate to more people.
Right.
The Because I that was one of the things that I in the beginning, when I started this journey and talking about all the good things and then all the bad things, and I would listen to podcasts about all the bad things that these covert narcissists did. And I would go, "Well, he doesn't call me names. He doesn't he doesn't do the silent treatment for days at a time. He doesn't." I mean, there were things I would go, "He's not that bad. He's not that
Mm.
bad." So but let's so that became a real hurdle for me to get over, and I would say and I think on our first 6-week session with you, I said, my I was still married at the time, but my husband is just he's the covert of the covert." It's like, it's just so subtle that my spirit knew something was right. Something wasn't right. It's like the conversation I had with a young woman who just recently went through the same thing, and she was telling me, she said, "You can feel it, you can see it, kind of, but you can't explain it."
Very true. Very
Mm.
true. And convincing myself to not focus on the bad. Okay. Go back to that Philippians scripture where we're focusing on the good. Convincing myself to do that does not erase the impact that their behavior is having on you, on your heart, on your soul, on your energy, on your mental thoughts. The impact of being belittled, being dismissed, being invalidated, being gaslighted, the impact that those things have They can't just disappear because you're going to bully yourself through. I'm going to only think about the good. The impact is still there.
The impact is still there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you have to choose how you're going to move forward with that. And regardless of whether a person leaves or stays, we have to be honest with ourselves and acknowledge the truth.
Yes.
We have to, and it's good for our sake as well as their sake. They
Yes.
need to not be able to get away with that unhealthy behavior. They can't keep beating us down and doing the things that are hurting the people in their lives that they love because it's not good for them, it's not good for the people they're hurting. So
Very
we
true.
yeah, so at some point we have to stand up and say, I acknowledge what is happening here, and now I can choose what I'm going to do to move forward.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time that I meet with, in my individual and group sessions, but I tell them often, look, whether you leave or stay in the marriage is not my focus. That is a personal decision, and everybody has their own path through this. However, the healing is the crucial part.
Mm.
If I'm still in my marriage, and in fact, I did this 2 years before the divorce, I focused on healing, focused on facing the truth. Why was I feeling the way I was feeling? What was going on that was causing me to feel repulsed by him? I was pulling away from him emotionally. I felt very lonely around him. So I thought, okay, I've got to figure this out. And as I started healing and focusing on getting me in a healthier place, then if he gets on board with that too, and he goes, "Hey, we're going to get healthier in this marriage," then great. Great. It's beneficial to both of us, and this can go in a great direction, and we could have a beautiful marriage then. But if he doesn't, that's on him. That's on him. And if he doesn't, I'm in a healthier place to decide, what do I need to do for me and my family? So either way, the healing is crucial. And you are 100% right when you say it's even the best thing for them,
Right.
because maybe they get on board with the healing too.
Exactly, and that was, I think, what gave me the most peace about making the choices the choices that I did, and that was to first leave, hoping when I separated that he would come to that place.
Yeah.
And when I didn't see any change there, then finally even filing for the divorce, it was like I had no choice because it was not changing. The learned behavior was there, the same patterns were there, the same underlying level underneath all the good, that
Yeah.
same underlying level was still there.
Yeah.
And so I could focus on all the good things all day long, but it wasn't changing what was there. And I remember my therapist telling me, you can all if he does change, if he does finally come to that place of recognizing that he needs help and really getting to the bottom and to the root, you can always get back together again. She
Right.
had counseled other people and Christians particularly who um who she was able to help them. They were able to get back together because both the victim or survivor and the narcissist, the covert narcissist, were able to make that point to where they could come back together, but it's very rare.
It is very rare, but it does happen, but it is very rare. And it's those situations where, okay, they're not on the extreme end of that, spectrum. But I like what you're saying, and that I was still open to him getting, if he was going to do the healing, but he's got to take charge of it. He's got to do it himself. But if he's going to do the healing, then maybe we could, reconcile this marriage and get back together. Until I reached the point, it was too far. I had crossed that line of no return, and it was at that point it was too much. So it does happen. But I do want to stress, and then we'll close out here. I want to stress that there is a difference between judging and facing reality.
Exactly.
I could face reality without judging him. I've never called him evil. I've never called him, you know, of the devil or anything like, because I don't believe that's true. I think that a lot of narcissistic people are incredibly wounded and have their own trauma that they are dealing with. That said, that doesn't mean I have to stay and not protect myself, in the situation. And so I could walk away and still be compassionate. And that's what I did. It was okay to have compassion and still walk away. There is a difference between judging and facing reality.
Exactly. I fully agree with that, Renee. And I've thought of that when I thought, was I being a hypocrite by only focusing on the good? Did that apply to me where Jesus was talking to the hypocrites? And I went, no, I was wounded. I was desperate. I was committed to the marriage. I was doing everything I could. And so, yeah, I was not being a hypocrite. And by judging, by looking at the plank in my own eye, I'm doing the necessary work and still seeing a plank in his eye. Yeah, that's being honest, and that's not judging.
It's not. So, Kathy, thank you for being here today. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on it. This is such a tough topic, but it is such a crucial topic to get out there because so many people, raised in that environment and believe in that, the Christian world and God. And so that there's a commitment there. And then how do you reconcile that with walking away from a marriage? So it is a tough issue. And I thank you for sharing your thoughts here.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Renee. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. And if this message, this episode resonates with you, please reach out. Whatever your approach is to this, whatever your perspective, there is help to be found. There are people that are here to support you. You do not need to go through this journey alone. And so please reach out to me anytime. I will, if I'm not the right help for you, I will help you to find the right help. My email address is Renee, Renee, at covertnarcissism.com. And I just look forward to hearing from every single person that reaches out to me. So thank you so much. And I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism podcast. If you are struggling with covert narcissism in your life, I help people to heal from covert narcissistic abuse. If you are struggling with the isolation, the self-doubt, and the obsessive thinking, then this is the program for you. I offer both group and individual options. This is live, personalized coaching that is specific to covert narcissism. Reach out to me anytime. You can find me at my website, covertnarcissism.com. I'm not a therapist and you are not a victim. I am a coach and you are a survivor. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson and the Covert Narcissism podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. It does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.